not the same. If I close my eyes.
Hey beautiful, welcome to Dr. Sarah's Café. This is your weekly refill where we take our time to savor the flavor of the week, which is a unique specialty blend of astrology, tarot, oracle, poetry, and a little bit of creativity and intuition as well, okay? This week, our flavor is a really important one, so I want you to pay attention. I also want you to watch Tuesday's tarot reading where I unpack the flavor even further because there's an important message there for someone. So that flavor is God and devil in the details. God and devil and in the details. You might have heard the phrase, the devil is in the details. It's a very common one. Less people have probably heard God is in the details. I'll tell you where that quote came from or where it's attributed to. But in terms of the devil in the details, we can think about contracts, terms, conditions, needing to read things really, really closely, people sugarcoating things, kind of glossing over important information that can come back to bite us if we aren't aware of it or if we didn't pay attention to it the first time around. So whether it's a verbal agreement, a handshake, an official contract, or just an understanding that you have between two people, especially with Mercury being retrograde, run through the details with a fine-tooth comb, ask follow-up questions, ask someone else, ask multiple other people to take a second look, or just wait until next week. Wait until Mercury goes direct before doing any type of official agreements, okay? And for yourself, you want to be clear. You want to check your own details. So if you're creating something, if you're writing something, you want to review it, you want to proofread it, you want to edit it, you want to look more closely, okay? Now the other side of this coin, which is God is in the details as well, it reminds me of the artist, the pastry chef, the designer who focuses on every fine detail. And so I have an image here of a chef who's like honing in on like one small little pastry and adding like little bitty garnishes, little bitty flourishes. There was actually an image of someone using tweezers to put decorations on a piece of food or a piece of dessert, right? Like putting that extra garnish on it. And that's where the idea of God is in the details, right? And so here's the quote that I'm referring to. It goes all the way back to my architecture days. I'm still an architecture geek at heart, home design, decor. I am obsessed. I'm one of those people who watches HGTV, just binge watches it. I could just leave it on all day. So God is in the details is a quote by American architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. And boy, did we talk about Mies van der Rohe when I was in architecture school, okay? So he lived through the late 1800s through the mid 1900s. It means that when attention is paid to the small things, it can have the biggest rewards and that the details matter. In this gallery, we will view works that showcase photography of architecture and will dig into the detail the architects, master builders, and artists have put into their buildings. The details do matter, and even the smallest detail can have the biggest impact. And when fully appreciated, one can hopefully see the beauty and attention to detail and how it can enrich the experience. Full impact of this gallery will need the use of the zoom feature. Now you might be wondering why I quoted this. This is from Google. Google has like a gallery where they unpack this quote, right? I remembered the quote from architecture school, but I wanted to remember who to attribute it to, right? I couldn't remember the name of the architect, but I recognized the name Mies van der Rohe once I saw it, for sure. And the description here, it's the way they describe things, like full impact of this gallery will need the use of the zoom feature. So some of us need to zoom in more closely in some area of our life, some discussion, some contract, some piece of work, some relationship, some home development, some career health, something requires us to zoom in a little deeper and not just gloss over, not just skim the surface, not just have a rough outline, but to have a detailed understanding or a detailed attention put on that thing, okay? And the zooming in and the zooming out has a lot to do with what I've been talking about for weeks with Jupiter retrograde opposing Mercury in Sagittarius. Because Gemini is the zooming in, Sagittarius is the zooming out. Mercury is the zooming in, Jupiter is the zooming out. Zooming in, zooming out. Forest, trees, telescope, microscope, okay? So let's get into the astrology specifically. There's a lot. There is a lot here. So I could, but I won't fully flesh out like every single aspect or transit that's happening this week. It is a big week, okay? All the more reason to pay attention to the details, because with so much happening, so much significant things happening, there's going to be a lot going on, okay? And so you don't want things to slip through the cracks. You want to slow down, zoom in, slow down, zoom in, okay? Now, the first thing we have is on December 2nd, Venus and Capricorn is trining Uranus and Taurus. I think this is going to be a pleasant surprise. It could be a small surprise of an extra garnish, an extra nugget in the nugget box. It could be an unexpected compliment from a stranger that makes us feel extra cute that day, right? It could be a few extra dollars in the tip jar. I like this especially because Venus is trining its home sign of Taurus, okay? Now, December 4th, we have Mercury and Sagittarius opposing Jupiter and Gemini. I will definitely link to the full Jupiter retrograde video where I talk about that duality, the zooming in, the zooming out, the microscope and the telescope. And the Sun in Sagittarius on that same day is going to be squaring Saturn in Pisces. Now with this, I see, because Sagittarius and Pisces are both really expansive energies. They both like bigness. They both like space and expansion. Sagittarius, however, being a fire sign, is more active and wants to like trailblaze and forge ahead and explore new horizons. Whereas Pisces is a water sign, it's like the ocean. So it just wants to like encompass all the things. It wants to absorb all the things, right? And just like everything is diluted and everything is just all swimming around in a soup known as the ocean. But there is definitely an expansiveness there. So I actually like that this is a square. And with Saturn in the mix being the grounded earth sign that it is, can mitigate that tendency to expand, that tendency to run away with itself that Sagittarius has, but also that Pisces has, like being just kind of like lost and overwhelmed and sort of just swirling in the ocean of emotion, right? And Sagittarius being like, I'm just gonna like continue to forge ahead and never like stop to look around. Stop where you are. Like, just look at where you are. Like, look at the beauty of right where you are. It doesn't always have to be about like, let's go forward. Like, let's move ahead. Like, let's ascend. So I think Saturn is going to help slow us down and say, hold on. There is so much to unpack. Okay, there is a lot of content here and we need to slow down, zoom in, be diligent. Yeah. Be diligent and precise in what we're doing here, how we're going about this. Now, the next day, December 5th, we have the Sun in Sagittarius in conjunction with Mercury in Sagittarius. So that is Mercury Cazimi. Mercury is in the heart of the Sun. It's at the seat of the king, which is the Sun. And I always note that Mercury Cazimis are times of epiphany, of understandings, of awareness. And so this could be very helpful in pointing out something of detail, right? Seeing something more clearly, clearing out the fog, also like streamlining or pruning like excess distraction, pruning like unnecessary details. So this is another thing too, in terms of the devil being in the details. Like sometimes people will just add a lot of unnecessary information to obscure, to hide the detail that's most important. So they'll distract you with all of these like bells and whistles and like lots of words, be very verbose and like look at all the things. Like just they'll just add so much content and they'll just add so much showiness and they'll just be throwing in everything but the kitchen sink, and it's to distract you from that one detail that's going to benefit them at your expense. So be careful of those kinds of tactics. Okay, if someone's throwing a whole bunch of stuff at you, tell them you're going to take it home, look at it, review it, and get back to them next week. That's my recommendation. It's like slow down, zoom in. Slow down, zoom in. Say it with me now. Slow down, zoom in. Okay. Now December 6th, Mars goes retrograde. I told y'all this is a big week. This first week of December is like, okay, I don't know if my microphone picked up the snapping. Probably canceled it out as background noise. But I mean, Mars is retrograde. So that'll be for several weeks. It'll retrograde back into Cancer. Now Mars retrograding in Leo is a little better than Mars retrograding in Cancer. So we'll talk about that when it comes. But just know that Mars is our assertiveness. Mars is our willingness to fight. So this is also important in terms of someone might hide the devil in the details, hoping that you will just say, okay, oh well, I don't feel like standing up for this. I don't feel like correcting this. I don't feel like pointing this out, right? Like they might be hoping that you don't have the energy or the knowledge or the resources to push back or to counteract or to counter offer, right? So it's like taking the first offer that you get just because it's easier. It's the path of least resistance. So in terms of the people who might have ill intentions, just know that they might be relying on you to not feel like causing something. Like even because like I recently ordered something online, and I think a lot of companies rely on the hassle of having to return an online purchase. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, just be careful that if something seems unfair, if you want to ask a question, if you think, if even if it's just a very subtle desire to counteract, right? If you just aren't fully 100% ready to go, it's okay to say, one, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to get a second opinion. I'm going to review these options over the next few days, several days, and get back to you. Here's my proposal. Here's my alternative option, right? Because Mars, again, is our assertive energy, the energy that we use to, you know, have a sense of agency and to feel empowered. Same day, Mercury in Sagittarius is squaring Saturn in Pisces. So again, because of all that's going on here, I like the squares to Saturn because it puts certain things in check. It can put people in check. Saturn is the planet of karma. Saturn is the planet that says, you gonna learn today. Saturn is the planet of F around and find out, okay? So, Mercury being retrograde in Sagittarius opposing Saturn. Again, it can put pressure on us to zoom in. Because again, we might not be feeling it. We might just want to take the path of least resistance. We might want to swim downstream, float downstream. We might be tired. We might be over it. Like for whatever reason, if you're not inclined to do due diligence, that square to Saturn might put on the pressure, might put the pressure on you to say, no, send this back, take a second look, go back and try this again. I used to hate when my teachers would make me go back. I would like hand in my test and they like review the test and like go back and look at number 7. I'm like, lady, I turned the test in because I'm done with it, okay? So Saturn, this squares to Saturn is like that teacher who has looked at your test and they're like, go back and check your work. Go back and look at double check your answer for number 15, right? So this week in particular, I like the squares to Saturn, just my opinion. Same day. So much going on this week. Venus enters Aquarius. Venus in Aquarius is love for the quirkiness, love for the eccentric. We love things that are unique, that are intelligent, that are different, that are even kind of cosmic. We love the genius. So this is like sapiosexual. This is like, oh my gosh, I'm so attracted to your mind. I'm so attracted to your eccentric hobbies, right? So that could be fun, right? There'll be more to come the next day when Pluto conjuncts Venus, when Venus conjuncts Pluto in Aquarius. So this just deepens what I feel about seeing beauty in the macabre, seeing beauty in the darkness, in the underground, seeing beauty in the what could be considered taboo even, right? And just appreciating that. Also, Venus in conjunct Pluto in Aquarius could be creating things that are like extremely avant-garde, extremely eccentric and unique, but meaningful and like useful to the planet or society, and yet also like beautiful in their creation. So this Venus entering into Aquarius to me is God in the details, especially conjunct Pluto, like the depth of the beauty, like the transformative beauty of it. It feels like that's God in the details. It's so much careful attention to make something beautiful that it becomes a transformative kind of beauty. Like when you witness it, when you hear it, when you read it, when you see it, it almost feels like something inside of you changes or grows or blossoms, because it's, you know, you recognize the level, the intensity of the art and the craft. Also on December 7th, the Sun in Sagittarius opposes Jupiter in Gemini. So you have Mercury that just opposed Jupiter in Gemini, and now the Sun is opposing Jupiter in Gemini. So I see this as being very similar to that Mercury opposition, but with the Sun opposing Gemini. I always like conflate those two words. With the Sun rather than Mercury, this is, I see an expansion of identity, or I'm thinking of how we see ourselves. We are able to gather new information about who we are and how we show up in the world, and sort of rewrite a narrative for who we are, how we see ourselves, or how we think we show up, right? The story about our place in society. Or now I'm even thinking about feeling like a foreigner, because an opposition is considered a difficult, challenging aspect, but I see it as a balance or a reconciliation between those two energies if we use it intentionally, right? It's like you can sort of meet in the middle or synthesize the two sides of that spectrum when you have an opposition. And an opposition is when two planets are directly across the sky from each other, right? Exactly 180 degrees apart. So what I was saying with the Sun, I think I was saying, I started to think about foreigners and how our identity could be not changed, but we could see a different side of ourselves through an interaction with someone who's very different from us. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. And then lastly, Neptune goes direct in Pisces. Now, Neptune is illusion. Neptune is fantasy. So when we talk about the devil in the details, God in the details, this is another reason to be careful. Neptune is changing directions in the sky, the planet that rules fantasy and glamour, including like glamour spells, projection, smoke and mirrors, illusion. Did I say illusion already? When Neptune is making a pivot, is about to do anything, it's a time to be sober-minded. Be as sober-minded as you possibly can. This could be the return to, or the recognition of, a past illusion, seeing where someone has cast a glamour, or where someone has created a false perception of something, or projected falsely or inaccurately, or wasn't seeing something clearly, okay? And then we might, again, like the fog may clear, the fog may lift, and all of a sudden the details that we missed, whether they be ugly details or beautiful details, we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that before. Okay? So that's a lot with the astrology. Let's get to the tarot. We have 3 cards. So apparently this energy this week is about a lotness. Okay, we have more cards than normal, more astrology transits and aspects than normal. And they were such big aspects that I felt like I had to at least mention them. Sometimes I just limit myself because I don't want to overwhelm people with all of the astrology, but those were all relatively significant, and I just wanted to at least acknowledge them and show how they each play into the flavor of God and devil in the details. With these tarot energies though, we have the Ace of Swords, and I'm using the Golden Black Cat tarot deck. We have the Ace of Swords up there at the top. On the bottom left, we have Temperance. On the bottom right, we have Judgment. We have Judgment again this week. We've had it 2 weeks in a row. The Ace of Swords is the clarity, the detail, the sharpness, the precision, okay? It could be precision in communication, specifically, especially since we had Mercury doing things this week. Temperance is, I'm thinking about the Temperance as when you become so good at an energy that you can sort of take off the training wheels, right? It's like you have to know the rules in order to break the rules. So temperance is being so well versed in the rules that you can break them and sort of develop your own style, develop your own vibe, your own approach. The temperance energy is also patience. So when I say slow down, zoom in, temperance with the Ace of Swords is the slowing down and the zooming in, right? The Ace of Swords, precision, clarity, like say exactly what you mean and mean exactly what you say, okay? No excess words, be sharp and clear of mind, all the things. And temperance is that patient energy, saying I'm going to be patient, I'm not going to rush to make a decision, I'm not going to rush to sign papers, rush to shake hands. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to zoom in. Now, the other thing about temperance is that it is Sagittarius energy. So this card is also just speaking to and reflecting back all of the significant energies, planets, and aspects we have in the sign of Sagittarius this week. So look at where Sagittarius is in your birth chart for a more specific idea or understanding of what part of your life this might impact the most. And then now we go to that judgment energy. Judgment energy I actually like because it is a reckoning. I'm feeling it as a reckoning. So maybe reconciling discrepancies, reconciling details, like your version of the contract versus their version of the contract, and saying, okay, what's going to be the final version that both of us agree on, you know? Now, the judgment energy also speaks to the past and even ancestry. And I don't know why ancestry is coming through. Maybe that means something for some of you. Maybe something happening this week with ancestors specifically. Maybe someone's ancestor is an artist, was a crafts person. Yeah, okay, that just came through. And okay, so what was I originally going to say though about judgment? I mean, okay, so also judgment could mean, I don't usually read it this way because I don't think it's like the most aligned meaning of judgment, but you could take it as a judgment call. Okay, so making a judgment call, making a decision, making a judgment about, is this an agreement I want to enter into? Is this a fair deal? Is this the best version of this project? Is this ready to publish? Is this ready to go to print? Is this ready to be distributed to my email list? Is this, the right school to choose for my child? Is this the right dress to buy for my wedding? Like, so you could be also making a judgment call that sort of, when you make that decision, when you make that judgment, it becomes a sliding doors moment. And it's like, it has ripple effects. It will have ripple effects and consequences going forward. Okay. Now, the other way that this could be read too is something coming back to be renegotiated. Something's coming back to be reassessed, re-evaluated. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. The oracle card we got is Root of Earth. So with the Root of Earth here, this is very practical for some people this week in terms of being clear about your money, your finances, your accounting, your documents, your paperwork, your scheduling, right? Like even double checking the time zone on a meeting that you scheduled. Making sure you spelled the person's name right. Making sure you signed where you're supposed to sign and not where the other person is supposed to sign. Making sure that the deposit you thought you made actually went through. So it could be very, very practical in that sense. Now, for others of you, you're starting something off on the right foot. And so you might be putting things in place to begin a new project, a new journey, a new venture for yourself. And you're being very detail oriented. You're being a good student. You are being thorough. You are slowing down. You're being diligent. You're giving this project, this process, this new relationship, this new home, this new construction, you're giving it due diligence, due process. You're taking your time. You're looking over the details. You're looking at the line items. You're doing line editing. The Root of Earth corresponds to the Page of Earth and our Page of Pentacles. And it's an energy that is very grounded and practical and almost gets excited by the details, right? You see how he's like holding up that pentacle and he's like, oh my gosh, look at it. Like marveling at it. Like, oh my gosh, this is, wow. So just visually, I'm also getting now too that like you could be marveling at the craftsmanship of something. You could be marveling at the detail of something, right? And saying, oh my gosh, look at the results of having slowed down and zoomed in to create this beautiful experience, this beautiful bank account, this beautiful project, this beautiful relationship. So many ways that this can play out. And I didn't do pastry or poetry. I wonder why. Did I purposely leave it out? Oh no, I miss it. I wish I had done it, but I'm here now. And I have given you a lot in terms of the astrology, so maybe I left it out because of that. But our takeaway is, do I have enough information? And am I missing the bigger picture? Do I have enough information? And am I missing the bigger picture? With that, my dears, I hope that this has helped you in some way to refill your spiritual cup. Be sure to watch the Tuesday tarot reading after this, and I hope to see you in another video. Take care and much love.